Now that we've completed the origins, history and principles section, I thought now might be a good time to introduce some further reading options for you before we step into the modern applications of Stoicism. If you've followed the series so far, you'll have seen me quote from many of the great Stoics, so I want to introduce you to some of my favourite books that you too might enjoy reading or dipping into. Everyone who gets into Stoicism eventually asks the same question. Okay, I've watched the videos, I've seen the quotes on Instagram, what do I actually read? Good question, because Stoicism isn't a modern self-help fad. It's over 2,000 years old. It's got primary texts written by Roman emperors and ancient slaves, and then it's got this whole modern layer of writers translating it for people who don't have time to learn ancient Greek. So today, and in no particular order, I want to walk you through the 10 books I think genuinely earn a place on any self-respecting Stoic's bookshelf. Not just the famous ones, though we'll get to those, but a proper mix, the ancient sources, the modern interpretations, and a couple of scholarly deep cuts that'll take you further than anything with life hack in the subtitle. I have put Amazon links to all the books we're going to look at in the description below. These are affiliate links, so I will earn a small commission if you buy these using the links. But this won't cost you any more than without the link, and the commission helps to support the channel. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Book number 1, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. We have to start here, don't we? This is the big one. Meditations is genuinely strange when you think about what it is. It's the private journal of the Roman emperor, written to himself during military campaigns and never intended for publication. He's not teaching anyone. He's reminding himself again and again how to be a decent, disciplined, unbothered human being while running an empire and burying friends and children along the way. For students of Stoicism, this is the emotional core of the whole philosophy. It's not systematic, so don't expect chapters and arguments. It's fragments, repetitions, a man talking himself down off the ledge of his own anger and grief in real time. That's exactly why it hits so hard. You're not reading a lecture, you're reading a mind at work. So the recommended edition is Gregory Hays' translation. It reads like modern prose and not creaky Victorian English. Moving on to book number 2, Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. If Marcus is the emperor talking to himself, Seneca is the mentor talking to a friend. This is a collection of letters that Seneca wrote to his younger friend Lucilius, covering basically everything: wealth, friendship, death, retirement, how to deal with annoying dinner guests. What makes Seneca different is that he's funny, he's witty, he's self-deprecating and occasionally hypocritical. This guy was one of the richest men in Rome while writing about the virtues of simple living, and he knows how that looks. That tension actually makes him more relatable, not less. He's not preaching from a mountain. He's a flawed guy trying to practice what he preaches and being honest about how hard that is. A great starting point if Marcus feels a bit too dense on the first read. Book number 3, The Enchiridion by Epictetus. Now here's the interesting one. Epictetus was born a slave and later freed and became one of the most influential Stoic teachers in history, and he never wrote a word of it down himself. His student Arrian took notes during his lectures, and that's what survives in the form of the Enchiridion, or the handbook. It's short, blunt and almost military in its delivery. This is where you get the dichotomy of control in its purest form. Some things are up to us, some things aren't. Stop wasting energy on the second category. If Marcus gives you the emotional texture of Stoicism and Seneca gives you the charm, Epictetus gives you the discipline. It's the toughest love of the three, and honestly, it's the one I think changes people's behaviour the fastest. Book number 4, A Guide to the Good Life by William B. Irvin. Okay, moving into modern territory. This is probably the single best entry point for someone who's never read a word of ancient philosophy. Irvin, a philosophy professor, does something clever. He doesn't just summarize Stoic ideas, he reconstructs Stoic psychological techniques, negative visualization, the dichotomy of control, self-denial, as a coherent toolkit you can actually pick up and use today. It reads like a practical manual, not a history lesson. So if someone in your life says, Stoicism sounds interesting, but where do I even start? This is probably the book to hand them, no contest. Book number 5, The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. Love him or find him a bit much, Ryan Holiday did more to bring Stoicism back into mainstream conversation than anyone alive. The Daily Stoic is 366 short daily meditations, each built around a quote from Marcus, Seneca or Epictetus, with a short modern reflection attached. Is it a bit bite-sized? Sure, but that's the point. It's designed as a habit-building tool and not a cover-to-cover read. For students who want a daily practice rather than a syllabus, this earns its spot. Just don't let it be the only Stoic book you own. Think of it as the vitamin or supplement and not the actual meal itself. Book number 6, How to Be a Stoic by Massimo Pigliucci. Pigliucci is a philosopher and a scientist, and it shows. This book is structured almost like a dialogue with Epictetus, working through modern dilemmas. How to handle anger, wealth, love, death, using Stoic reasoning, but never pretending the ancient world had all the answers. What I appreciate here is the intellectual honesty. Pigliucci openly discusses where Stoicism needs updating for a modern, secular, scientifically literate reader. He's not asking you to buy the whole ancient cosmology, just the ethical framework. So that makes it a great pick for the more skeptical student who wants Stoicism without the mysticism. Book number 7, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. This is a different holiday book, different job. Where the Daily Stoic is a devotional, this one is a single sustained argument. Obstacles aren't just things to survive, they are the actual raw material of a well-lived life. Perception, action, will, that's the 3-part structure, lifted straight from Marcus Aurelius' own framework. And it leans heavily on stories. Athletes, entrepreneurs, historical figures, which make it more narrative and less philosophical than some others on this list. For students who learn best through examples rather than argument, this one works. It's also, not coincidentally, one of the most quoted business and sports books of the last decade. Book number 8, Stoicism and the Art of Happiness by Donald Robertson. Robertson is a cognitive behavioural therapist, and this book is where Stoicism and modern psychology shake hands properly. He draws the direct line between Stoic techniques and CBT because, frankly, the line is real. Albert Ellis and Aaron Black both cited the Stoics as an influence on CBT's founding ideas. For students who are interested in the why does this actually work on a brain level question, this is the book for them. It's structured with exercises, so it functions almost like a workbook. Genuinely useful if you're building content around the mental health adjacent side of Stoicism, which is clearly part of your wheelhouse. Book number 9, The Inner Citadel by Pierre Hadot. Now we go deep. This is the scholarly heavyweight on the list, and I include it deliberately because most top 10 Stoicism lists are too scared. Hadot was a French philosopher and historian, and The Inner Citadel is his study of meditations, not a retelling, a proper academic excavation of what Marcus Aurelius was actually doing philosophically, sentence by sentence, within the structure of Stoic physics, logic, and ethics. Now, it's not light reading, but if you've read Meditations 3 times and want to understand the architecture underneath it rather than just the vibe, this is the book that unlocks it for you. For serious students, the ones who want to go from I like Stoic quotes to I actually understand Stoic philosophy, this is essential reading. And finally, book number 10, Breakfast with Seneca by David Fidela. We'll close on a slightly less famous book because I think it deserves more attention than it gets. Videla takes Seneca's ideas and organises them thematically into wealth, time, anger, friendship, and death, pulling from across his entire body of work rather than just the letters. It works almost like a guided conversation with Seneca across a single breakfast, hence the title. It's warm, accessible, and does a great job of making Seneca feel like a coherent thinker rather than a source of scattered quotes. This is a lovely book to end a reading list on because it sends you back to the primary sources with fresh eyes. So there you have it, 10 books, 3 ancient voices and 7 modern guides, running the whole range from read this on day 1 to read this once you're already hooked. If you want my honest one-line cheat sheet, start with Irving for the framework, read Marcus for the soul of it, and keep Epictetus on your nightstand for whenever life kicks you in the teeth. So that's it for today. As always, keep calm, keep stoic, and I'll see you in the next one.